Hi, this is Joseph Williams, son of John Williams, and you are watching the Nerf Herder Council.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Nerf Herder Council. I am your host, JT. We are live on Facebook and YouTube, not only of the Nerf Herder Council, but also of the Virtual Cantina Network. If you are watching on YouTube, don't forget to click that like button, click that subscribe button, and smash that notification bell so that you are notified every time we go live. Of course, as always, we are brought to you by Audible. Go to audibletrial.com/NHC for your 30-day trial and a free audiobook download. If you would like to get customizable Nerf Herder Council swag, just go to shop.nerfherdercouncil.com. If you would like to get Virtual Cantina Network swag, just go to tpublic.com/user/virtual-cantina. As usual, everybody, quick disclaimers here. The opinions of the Nerf Herder Council don't necessarily blend with some of those of the Virtual Cantina Network, and there might be some bad words. So if you're offended by cuss words and shit, might be time to turn it off. Also, real quick before I bring AJ on, there is going to be spoilers in this show, so if you have not watched some or all of Ahsoka, definitely turn this off unless you don't care about spoilers. So without further ado, let me bring on my best friend and my brother. Of course, he is my amazing co-host. AJ, how's it going, man?
Oh, do we have a second co-host tonight?
What,
you're bringing on your best friend and your brother, so.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm sorry to compliment you. Fine. You're a giant a-hole.
Yes, I am. No, I'm feeling it tonight, man. I've been looking forward to this for, about 8 weeks now. So,
okay.
And plus, we've had our private conversations, and I know that our opinions of the quality of this show tend to vary pretty wildly. So I think it's going to be a good time button heads tonight.
Yes. Yeah, I've been looking forward to this as well. This is a very interesting show. Let's see. Kale McLeish tuning in. Always good to see you, my friend. He says, alrighty, I'll go get ready. I can be your new best friend. Kale wants to jump in and talk some Ahsoka too. He said, he also said, I'm somewhat expecting John to rip this show a new soul. Very well phrased. Very well phrased. Yeah, this is, man, I think this show is a little divisive, at least as far as I'm concerned. Right off the rip, I haven't seen a ton of universal praise for this like I have some of the other properties that they've released. That being said, I haven't seen too many people say that it's not very good. So I'm definitely interested to get people's opinions on this tonight as you and I go back and forth on it. There were a few things that I absolutely detested. I'm going to, forego the purrgil hate. It'll be they that shall not be named. So we'll do that. They'll be like Voldemort on the show. So, although I do think purrgil are more
video lag.
I have video lag. Wow.
You have video lag, my friend.
Oh well, it'll stop. My computer needs an update, and I found that out 10 minutes before we went live, and I was like, yeah, if I do that, it's going to take 20 minutes. So there we go. But, all right, so right off the rip, what are your overall thoughts about Ahsoka in general?
So I give them a lot of credit for doing the show. I think that, it's a big swing to go and continue a show that had 4 prior seasons and market it as a new show. So it's a harder jumping off point. They do a good job in most Star Wars shows of letting everybody in, as an entry point to it, and then they can explore the relevant stories as they want. So for this one to dive so headlong into everything that happened on a previous cartoon that ended, like 4 or 5 years ago, something like that. For them to take that and basically give a big thank you to all the fans that loved that show and pay that off with this new live action interpretation of it, I thought was great. And also, I like that they took chances in this show too. So I give them a lot of credit for doing some bold things instead of doing nothing but fan service. I mean, there's a lot of fan service in here, obviously, but to go to literally an entirely other galaxy outside of the Star Wars galaxy was huge. So anytime they take a risk, I'm at least going to give them respect for trying instead of just painting by numbers. Not everything worked, and I think a lot of the stories got shortchanged for the characters because there was, frankly, just too much going on for an 8-episode run. But I think that speaks to the fact that they probably have intentions to tell more stories and episodes in future seasons. So those are my thoughts. What do you think?
Well, Jeff Caffrey, always good to see you, man. He says, tell us how you really feel, John. Well, I think if it's one thing that even on our short time on the Virtual Cantina Network, it's one thing you guys ought to have learned already is that I will not hold back how I really feel. And those of you who are longtime viewers / listeners, especially our audio viewers, you definitely know I will not hold back. So, so for me, I will say this is by far my least favorite live action show that they've done. It's very low on the list of new Star Wars, I will say. Disney Star Wars so far. It's very low on that list in its entirety. This is a weird show for me because I can't say that I dislike it. I think I'm indifferent to it.
Ooh, that's the worst.
Yeah, I'm just like, okay, all right. Like, okay, it's there. It was Rebels fan service constantly. They that shall not be named obviously really rubbed me the wrong way. The World Between Worlds rubbed me the wrong way. There were a lot of things I was like, what the hell is going on here? And my main takeaway is that Dave Filoni absolutely needs a handler. Every time that guy has just run rampant with something 100% on his own, it has not been good. I'm sorry. I know that is absolute, that's blasphemous to say that to a Star Wars audience, but the guy needs to be reined in. He needs someone sitting across the table when he comes up with some of these really stupid goddamn ideas and tell him, Dave, that's a really stupid goddamn idea. I think this show is proof. I've said this before, but I'll say it again because this is like my main takeaway. The reason Mandalorian is so good is because Filoni is involved, but he's got someone to check him. Jon Favreau has other ideas. He can tell Dave when he's doing something stupid. On this show, he did not have that, and it shows. I think this show had the same limitations that Rebels had. I thought it had the same quality that Rebels had, which is not good in my opinion. And will I watch future seasons? Of course. Like I said, I didn't dislike it. It didn't turn me off, and I'm like, I'm not even going to watch what comes forward. I just, I don't. Nah, it's okay. It's Ahsoka. Okay. So, yeah.
All right.
So Kale McLeish, he says, so this ends up lower than Book of Boba Fett for you by far because I really like Book of Boba Fett. I'm a staunch supporter of the Book of Boba Fett. Spencer Jowitz, great to see you, my friend. He says Favreau was an executive producer. Dave was just the writer. Well, whatever it was, someone needed to tell him it was a stupid damn idea about 72 different times in the show, and no one did. He just went running off rampant with his certain ideas that we'll get into. Yeah,
I was going to ask, what are those ideas? You seem
Brad
to be
Williams?
really, really.
Well, okay. So Brad Williams, he says, good to see you, by the way. Thanks for tuning in. He says, Filoni needs George to keep him in check. I think it would be somebody outside of George. I think George is a little too close to it, and George needed that on the prequels, which I love the prequels. But there were a few times where you could tell that if someone would have said, hey, George, let's kind of, all right. Well, we're about to have our first person banned from the chat in the history of the show, Spencer Jowitz. And someone needed to tell Ford Crystal Skull is the Ishtar of Indy. Spencer, if you don't stop hating on the Crystal Skull, I swear to God, I'm going to jump on your bed at the next celebration like 4 a.m. when you have to catch a flight. There's a good inside joke there. Look, there were some really stupid things in Rebels that he completely did in this show. Firefights where people are 3 feet apart and missing. Stop with that shit, okay? Stop it. Just stop it, okay? With that dumb battle with the Nadi, where those big globe things, which I love the Nadi, I've said that, they're moving about 2 miles an hour and nobody's hitting anything. What the hell is that? Supposedly Thrawn sends out these amazing assassins to go kill him. You're the best we got. It's like they're the assholes from Spaceballs. Here's my cousin, like all cross-eyed crap. You know what I mean? Like, stop with that.
You're not wrong.
It was terrible. I mean, why? Like, have somebody hit something. I mean, it just looked stupid, and it was I had a huge problem with that in Rebels, and he did it again in this show. It's like, come on, man.
Yeah.
In a cartoon, okay, fine, but not in live action. It looks really dumb. So that was
this
the
is
big
the problem. Yeah, in Clone Wars, you're fighting robots, so you can mow down as many of them as you want. But as soon as you put people in the line of fire, now nobody can get killed.
Yeah. Well, and it was the cute little naughty, and I get that. Like, you don't want to, even me, I was like, oh, don't kill one of the naughty. Like, I would have been bummed out. You know what I mean? But, yeah, I really didn't like that. I when I saw it again, I was like, come on, dude. Didn't you learn anything from that show? But, yeah, that wasn't cool. And Ezra and Sabine sitting there in an open cockpit, like, and nobody's like shooting at them or dinging them, or they're not ducking and weaving. This, like, okay, let's shoot at the little bug people instead of the two main characters you're trying to slaughter. Like, what the hell is going on?
Okay, that did stick out to me. I'm like, you don't care about the naughty. You're aiming for Ezra and Sabine as your targets. Why are you pot-shotting the innocents when you could just swarm the two people you're trying to kill and get the job done?
Yeah. I didn't understand that at all. And I mean, and Sabine and Ezra just kind of like, it was like they were a friggin' spectator. They're just like, oh, look at that. There's a battle. Wow, that's got to suck. Wow, look at that. Okay. You know, it's like a Sunday drive or some crap. It was like driving Miss Daisy. Like, what the hell is going on? I was waiting for Ezra to stop and take a piss on the side of the damn field. You know,
where were they going anyway?
They were going to the ship, weren't they? They were trying to get back to Thrawn's ship. I was busy being
the naughty
annoyed.
were.
Well, no, the naughty were, they're Ezra's buddies and stuff. And again, I was glad they didn't kill the naughty. Although I think if they would have had one of them get shot or something, like put some tension in there. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like if you're going to kill the cute little critters, then your mind will kind of go to that place of, oh, what are they going to do next? But they didn't. It was, so that was, going from a negative to a positive. I did really like the naughty. I thought they were cool. It was a new little race of people, and they're aliens, whatever you want to call them. And I thought, they were cute, but not to the point of being overly cute. So I thought that was really cool. I enjoyed them. They're like a peaceful race or whatever, and so I enjoyed that.
Did you feel like that? Did you feel like Peridia and the whole like new galaxy was alien enough? I felt it was just like any other Star Wars planet.
Yeah, I mean I guess, yeah. I didn't really think of it that way. I didn't figure that we were going to get something all kooky and everything, which and to be honest, I'm glad we didn't. Because if we were going to get some like, Ant-Man Quantum Mania goofy crap, I was going to be like, seriously? I mean,
it can run afoul, you're right.
Yeah, I liked that it was, familiar. So that was cool. Spencer Jowett says naughties are plot armor. Our first instance
cute
of plot
is
armor.
plot armor.
Yes.
If you're too cute, you can't die. That's just it.
Yeah.
It's like they didn't learn from Return of the Jedi. Like what's one of the most gut-wrenching scenes in the Battle of Endor? It's when the damn Ewok dies. His buddy rolls over and is like, "Oh man."
Yeah, and it even does the groan like
actual stakes. They killed a teddy bear.
Right.
So teddy bears can die, but turtles can't. Those are the rules in Star Wars.
Apparently not. Kale McLeish says it's not even the only time they've contradicted shit from Rebels, given that Sabine straight up gave Bo-Katan the Darksaber, but apparently Mando wasn't allowed to. That's a good point. That's kind of something. That's one thing I have seen people bringing up, Kale, is that they're like, that kind of goes against what we've seen. So there's that.
Well, they explain that as saying it really didn't go well for Bo-Katan. and she blamed it on basically it was cursed because she took it instead of won it.
They changed the rules. It was like the
Also
NFL. It was like the NFL rules committee. Every year they have a new meeting to determine new rules. The Mandalorians have a meeting every year to determine new Darksaber rules. So, yeah, I would say I don't. One of the things I didn't really care for, and we'll see where it goes. So I can't say that I'm really against this yet, but I don't right now see the point of the show starts and Sabine and Ahsoka are over here, and Ezra's over here, and and then the show ends and they're just in opposite places. Like, what the hell was all that for? So I'll be interested to see how they play that out. That's it just kind of made the whole thing seem kind of pointless to me. It was, like it started out where it began in a way.
It was weird. It's like season 1 here was basically an ensemble show. You had almost the entire crew of the Ghost. Still wonder why they didn't put Zeb in there.
Yeah.
And then by the end of it, everyone's split up. Like, okay. Usually you introduce things individually and then they all come together and culminate, but apparently we're going to do it the other way around. It's almost like, I love it when stories kind of do this. It's like Spider-Man, where, the MCU did their own spin on the character and he kind of had his own trajectory. And then at the end of No Way Home, he is the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man that we all thought we were going to get in the first place. So it turns out that everything was leading up to the origin point we expected. And this is kind of the same. Spider-Tano, No Way Home.
Nice work, Kale.
Kale, nice job. Yeah. But yeah, so to end season 1 with Ahsoka now being stuck out there in Purrgil is actually kind of a cool way to do it, because she was the one who wasn't lost, and you're right, they swap places. So if they want to do Ahsoka season 2, they can pick up on Purrgil and they don't have to explain where the hell everybody else is, because now Ahsoka's off on her own.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Like I said, I can't. It was confusing to me, but I can't say that I dislike it because I don't know where it's going. I mean, for all, I mean, I would, if I had to guess, I would say it's probably that's the start of the whole new universe thing or whatever, the second galaxy, and you're gonna have Ahsoka over there. I mean, and I think Sabine is over there for a reason, because what they need is someone who can farm the land, cut down the trees, make buildings out of them, cook all the food, run the government, provide like security and protection.
Mm-hmm.
Start like
design
a
the
water
weapons that defend them.
Yes, true. Start a water treatment plant and also run that. Am I missing anything?
Don't forget the orphanage. She's going to build an orphanage as part of that, and then also raise the children.
Yes, that's true. She's gonna open a few restaurants. There's gonna be like some like Purrgil In-N-Out burgers and stuff like that. You got to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I
think she's going to teach a broken-hearted old widow to love again too.
Right.
Yeah.
Look at our buddy Torres, man. Good to see you. He says, I was lost the entire time and hated it. Well, okay, number one, Torres.
I love our audience. They give us such nuanced takes,
Look, man, better to be direct. You know what I mean? I mean, so Torres, the story was easy to follow, but it also, I think, is easier to follow. This was the one show where I think you kind of had to know who these characters were and have that background, AJ, because I think it was, you had to kind of understand why Thrawn was a big deal, why they're looking for Ezra. There was a lot of backstory in this that I don't think, and that's another thing, like with The Mandalorian, the thing that I think that show does so well is that if you don't know Star Wars lore, you could still get into it. But if you know Star Wars lore, it's even deeper and more rich for you. So it appeals to both sides of that coin, whereas this one, I think, really relies on prior knowledge, I think. So,
well, do you think there's room for both kinds of shows?
Yeah, I think there is. To your point earlier about saying, usually like people start out apart and then at the end of the show they come together, and this one's doing it in reverse. That's a cool idea. I like that. It kind of turns it on its ear. It's interesting. It's original and whatnot. So yeah, I think there's room for it. Back to what we were talking about. I mean, if there's room for Sabine to have 8,428 different skills and lead everything in the whole goddamn galaxy, well, then why isn't there room for a couple different style Star Wars shows? The whole Sabine thing was annoying. She can't do everything. They need to cut that crap out. And let's talk about one of the biggest elephants in the room, okay? Whole show. She can't move a pen on a table. She's 2 feet away from whatever's on that damn table. Can't move it. Can't do a thing. All of a sudden they're in battle. She's blocking stuff and throwing things with the Force. And I'm like, I just went, are you kidding me? And then the very first thing that popped in my head was, that's not how the Force works. And it's not like the light bulb just clicked or something. Like in the middle of battle, she's like, oh, I get the whole Force thing. I'm doing all the Jedi crap. Like, the hell was that? I mean, that's one of those dumb ideas that Filoni had that someone needed to go, no. Even Luke Skywalker didn't do that in Empire. When he went out to fight Darth Vader, he was using the lightsaber and everything, but he wasn't, when Darth Vader was throwing all the crates and stuff at him, he was missing wildly. He couldn't deflect him with the Force and all this kind of stuff. No. I mean, at least there was something between he's, a Jedi and he just started learning this stuff. With Sabine, it was like a few hours later. You suck and then she's
5
perfect.
minutes later.
Yeah, right.
Now, on a rewatch, that scene plays out a little bit better. You'll see that she doesn't block every shot. Her Beskar is really taking a lot of the punishment for her. And that's why Ahsoka actually looks back and goes, blasters. Like, she looks at us at Sabine, it's like, you're kind of sucking right now. Use the guns. And I thought that was a nice touch, actually. But the first time she really uses the Force is to fling Ezra like 300 feet in the air. Like, man.
Well, and
you didn't think this was as big a problem, but I thought Kenobi had the same issue where, the guy can barely do anything in the second episode. In the third episode, he's like kind of off his game. And then by the fourth episode, he's holding back the entire ocean. I'm like, that's more Force power than we've ever seen the guy use in his life, and he's supposedly out of practice right now. It's ridiculous.
Okay, I see where you would say that, but the difference there is that, Obi-Wan Kenobi is one of the strongest Jedi to ever live. So at least on that one, you can go, okay, there's some plausibility to it. Sabine, she can't pick up a deck of cards. Now she's chucking Ezra. Like, I liked that thing where they did like, one's going to force jump, the other one's going to force push, and that's how you're going to get across that, that big
Kanan
distance.
and Ezra did that, yeah.
Yeah, I like that, but they should have reversed it. If Ezra is that much more powerful, well, maybe he should have been the one pushing, but I get it. He had to be the one on the ship, so, yeah, Kale's jumping on my side. He says, yeah, but that's Obi-Wan. We know he has the power, and he's regaining it. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, at least that's plausible. You could see Obi-Wan, and if he all of a sudden starts doing the Force again, we're like, well, yeah, because he kicks ass. But for Sabine to just do it out of nowhere at the most opportune time ever, it was just dumb. And you're right. She was getting shot too, but it's like it went from like 0 to 60. I'm like, come on, man, really?
Yeah, I would. It's not dramatic to show the progression, but I wish they had. It would have made a lot more sense.
Well, they did it with Grogu, and it was awesome.
Yeah, like he uses the Force a little bit, and then he's tired out. And then he uses the Force a little bit more, and he's not quite so tired. Yeah, and yeah.
I think that's a microcosm of this show. The word that just came to mind about the show to me is clumsy. It's not as smooth. It's not as well delivered. The ideas aren't fleshed out as well. And the Ezra thing, I hope when they do the future seasons, I hope they show him doing something, because the way it was built up where, like, he doesn't have a lightsaber, so his Force skills now have to be like amazing. And he's been stuck on that planet doing God knows what he's been stuck on Peridea doing God knows what for a couple of years. Like, he really didn't do much. It wasn't like all of a sudden he's like super kick ass. It was okay. So I hope they show that. Because I think that would be kind of cool, because then it makes him a more formidable character. which is kind of what I expected, and he really wasn't. It was more kind of like resting on his laurels. It was like we're just supposed to know that he's this great Jedi now. I guess it's implied, and I wasn't.
Yeah, I assume the audience was supposed to pick up on it because of how the other characters talked about him.
Yeah,
with a certain reference, but it's so hard because we've both seen Rebels, so we had all that backstory, and I don't know a lot of people who haven't seen Rebels that are fully versed in Ahsoka. So I hope that they chime in on like Torres did and give us their opinions, because I only watched the first couple of episodes with a totally like new audience to Star Wars, and they didn't have any questions beyond what we had, really. Like the backstory bits that were hinted at didn't yet matter in the plot. So the only questions that were mutual were like, since when was Sabine ever Ahsoka's apprentice? Like, oh, I don't know that either. You're not supposed to know that yet. But there are a lot of things in here that it seems like, I don't know. It's got to be hard as a writer. Like Filoni lives with these characters in his imagination day in and day out. And I know that's one of the hardest things as a creator, especially in film or something, is it's easy to leave out connective tissue because in your mind, those dots have already been connected. It makes perfect sense. So to remember to include all that stuff for everybody who doesn't have your insight, it's got to be tough. And I feel like, unfortunately, you've got so many fans working on Star Wars now that even the rest of the staff that's supposed to check that and make sure continuity makes sense and all those dots are connected for the audience, they already have those dots connected too, because they've got their headcanon and all the backstory as well.
Yeah. No, I agree. Again, I think it's something that he needs to be checked on. I think there was just something missing from this show that has been there with the other ones. And it's, I mean, say what you want about Book of Boba Fett, but at least like you had some awesome moments. There wasn't a ton of stuff where you just go, well, what the hell is that? I mean, it was mostly that one is, I think people's complaint about that show is like, what's the point of this? Why are we getting Mando season 2.5? Like, why it was kind of like a cash grab in a way, and it's not for cash, but you know what I mean? Like they just, we're going to get ratings based on showing a crap load of Boba Fett. And, but in terms of like the stuff that happened in the show, people were digging the Rancor getting loose, which if they weren't, you're wrong, because that was awesome. So, yeah, I mean, seriously, is there a Star Wars fan alive that can't get on board the Rancor running around kicking ass and not just stuck down in a pit?
Right.
Come on. But, yeah, like, I don't know. This show just lacked something that the others had. And again, I think it was clumsy. Shin Hafu was almost like a pointless character to me. It wasn't.
Yeah, I've got a couple lingering questions about a few plot threads, actually. So yeah, let's start with her.
Yeah, she's supposed to be like this Jedi Padawan, but she can't knock off Sabine. That didn't sit right with me. It was always a stalemate.
Well, remember, it's Sabine.
Well, that's true. That is true.
Sabine always wins. That's it.
Right. Kale agrees with us on the Rancor. As well you should. He said, no, that was pretty great, as was Grogu taming it at the end. Hey, man. Mm-hmm. See? Book of Boba Fett. It was cool. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't really get that either. And it seemed weird that Balin cut her loose when he did.
Yeah.
There was like no indication that was his plan until that exact moment where he's like, you go that way, I'm gonna go this way. Like, what?
Yeah.
You're talking about training her as your Padawan, as your apprentice, and then you just leave her on a planet in the middle of nowhere. Like, what?
And what sucks is like, they had a storyline built up for this, and now they have to change it all because Ray Stevenson died. You don't even have Balin Skrull. Like, maybe.
No. Don't go crossing the streams, buddy. It's not Balin Skrull. Balin Skrull does not exist.
Oh, sorry.
There is no secret invasion taking place.
Sorry. What's the last name?
Yeah. Skull.
That's right.
Skoll. Yeah.
That's right. Sorry. Mispronunciation there. I apologize. Yeah. Like,
you should make him a redneck. Give him a trucker hat. Call him Balin Skull.
Nice. They're just gonna write him out. The Nadi actually, it turns out the Nadi are like just incredibly violent, and they're just gonna
Right.
jump him, and there's gonna be a pile of Nadi like ripping his body to shreds, and that's how they write him out. Or he just, or
Okay.
he like.
Sorry, I had to get to this because
Okay.
yes, we're talking Balin, but yes, as far as
Oh,
things that really don't track, can a lightsaber just friggin' kill somebody for a change? Why does
Yes.
Qui-Gon get to be the only guy that falls from a lightsaber to the gut?
Yes. Yeah, Kale's comment for all our audio viewers out there says, "Remember that Sabine should be absolutely goddamn dead because Sabine should not be able to stand up to a lightsaber through the gut." Yeah, he nails it in the next one. He says somehow Balin's skull didn't return. Oh my god, that would be phenomenal. But yeah, I'm with you. Like, I mean, and we've talked about this on previous shows, so we don't gotta belabor the point too much. But like, apparently, if you get gored by a lightsaber, you're good. It's if you get barely nicked with it, then you're really in some trouble.
Yeah, the Inquisitor survived, Reva survived, Sabine survived.
Yep.
Also, what was the point of that? Like, she survived and it was never brought up again. Did you really have to basically land what should have been a death blow for dramatic effect? You could have just wounded her in some other way. I don't know, like chuck her off the ledge or something so she has like a horrible fall instead of like stabbing her with a weapon that has been shown to kill Jedi and have her survive.
It's almost like Monty Python, where they leave him. Like he's like, no, I'm feeling pretty good. Like, no, stay here. I will go. Like, no, I can come with you. I think I'm good. Like it's almost one of those wounds. They should have done that with her. Wow, I feel surprisingly light on my feet because of this. This really isn't hurt that bad. This isn't. I'm good, guys. I'm good. Let's go. Keep moving. Wow, interesting.
The gray Jedi diet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was another one of those things that was just kind of. I mean, they need to cut that crap out. If you're going to make a lightsaber a non-lethal weapon, you need to absolutely stop that like immediately. And any of the writers, there's got to be somebody in the room with every single Star Wars property going forward. There needs to be someone fully prepared to slap someone upside the head when they go, you know what? So they get run through with the lightsaber. And they don't die, and then the person just walks up behind, blam, and just smacks them in the back of the head and goes, no,
yes,
they die. Like, what is that?
Lightsabers are really getting nerfed, aren't they? Like they
Yeah.
don't kill people anymore. They just keep coming up with like weapons and metals that can like resist the blade. Like, remember when it used to just be like, holy shit, this thing goes through everything.
Yeah.
Yes, birds too.
Nice.
But then now we've got like, oh, Beskar blocks it, and vibroblades block it, and the Darksaber blocks it, and the blade of Talzin blocks it.
Yep.
And they're zombies, so they don't get killed by it. I mean, lightsabers should kill people.
They're becoming like a taser, aren't they?
People.
Isn't it becoming like a
At this
taser?
point, yeah.
That's all
Yeah,
it
it's
is.
ridiculous.
A lightsaber is merely a deterrent. It's like rubber bullets in a riot. You better get back. Oh, that's gonna hurt. Ow, that's gonna bruise. It's like getting hit with a paintball. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so glad we're on the same
Stop,
page.
that
with
tickles.
Yeah. Good Lord, get that thing away from me. That's hot.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah, that was not great. I don't know. I all right. I don't know. We'll move on, but so you said you had unanswered
overly
questions.
negative. We got to counter it. Give me a happy point.
Well, I mean, I actually did enjoy the show. I mean, I just thought it was kind of clumsy. I mean, I thought the imagery was cool. Balin's skull was awesome. It is such a damn bummer, like that Ray Stevenson had to die, because I really wanted to know, like, what the hell was going on with him and what his motive was and all that kind of stuff. And
yeah, he was like the most captivating part of the whole show, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, I loved Hu Yang. I thought, he was great. That was a really cool character. I don't know. I think there was a lot to like there. It was just a very clumsily handled sort of a thing. So
Do you feel like there was too much going on?
no, I mean, because and when you really get down to it, the story was pretty simple. I mean, but again, if you know what's going on, like had you seen Rebels, you know, okay, Sabine wants to find Ezra, and Thrawn is out there, so of course the bad guys want to find Thrawn. So you know what's going on. So I thought they kept it to a nice simple thing, like we got to go get Ezra, they got to go get Thrawn. So I thought that was good. It was nice and simple and everything. So that was I enjoyed that aspect of it. The whole, if you're jumping to another galaxy, you need a giant space ring. I thought that was cool. It kind of made sense to me. It was kind of grounded in at least logic, if nothing else, because when you see like the Jedi starfighters and they had the little hyperspace ring and it got them to go a little distance. Well, if you're going to a whole other galaxy, you need a really big one of those. So
Yeah,
that was kind of cool. Yeah, I mean, I liked the Night Sisters. It was cool to see them in live action. I didn't understand why why they kowtow to Thrawn. I just really don't understand. Like that guy has nothing. That guy is controlling like an army of zombies, and the Night Sisters have like dark magic and the Force, all this other stuff, and they're like just like kissing his ass, like they're in trouble if he's mad at him. Like what is that? I didn't understand. But
I thought
the
that
Night
was weird
Sisters
too.
was cool.
Yeah,
It just, I mean, that was the only thing that bothered me about Thrawn. I mean, was that it's like, okay, the guy's a military genius and stuff, and they're just, to me they made him too powerful. It wasn't as cool as it was in Rebels or in the EU and stuff like that. He was a little bit different. Look at Jeff Caffrey. Does Thrawn have blue balls? There's multiple ways to answer that. Oh my gosh. I don't know.
One of those times where being on the network kind of kneecaps us.
a little bit. I don't know, Jeff. There's 3 Night Sisters and 1 Thrawn. I think he's doing just fine.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I thought Thrawn was a little too powerful, and it was it just didn't seem like when in Rebels when he was just like strictly this military genius and this leader and stuff. Like it felt. It was cool. You get it. Like, okay, he wins strictly by his wits and everything like that. It's an intelligence thing, which is very cool. In this one, it was like everybody just bows down to the guy. Like he's got, superpowers or something, and which is not the case. And so I was like, I don't know about that.
I get that, but I thought it was kind of cool the way he is almost deified by his troops and everybody else at this point, because he's their leader and he's kept them alive through all of this. So
yeah.
it kind of tracks, but you're right. They have never explained why the Night Sisters are so stuck on him. Like what is he doing for them? We did not see that part. So maybe he's made a deal with them saying like, hey, if you help me out and get me back to the main galaxy, then this is what you'll receive. I don't know.
That's why.
But again, I don't know if that's lazy writing that they forgot that plot thread, or if they just haven't told that story yet.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just thinking about Jeff's comment about blue balls, and I'm thinking, well, the Night Sisters, maybe they're bowing down to him because he's just giving them the good loving. They're just like, oh, Thrawn, like the end of Top Jimmy in Van Halen.
If his quarters are smeared in purple, we know what's going on.
Oh, God. Oh my gosh. There's that bad language we were talking about.
Hey, I said nothing. All I did was mix some colors, okay?
True. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, hopefully that gets explained down the road. I think, I would like to see more of the Night Sisters. You know, they didn't do a lot with them, and as we've seen in the cartoon and stuff, Jeff Caffrey, pow chicka wow wow, nice.
Boy, didn't the Night Sisters look cool though?
Yes.
Like, you talk about a great translation from animated to live action. That was outstanding.
Yes.
They were so creepy.
Yeah, and I think like taking them out of a small environment, like just keeping them on like the bridge of the ship or whatever, like actually showing them in their environment would be really cool, because you can have those bigger set pieces, I think, that would look really, really cool. So, yeah, going back to finding positives about the show, they're definitely one of the positives. I also think there's a lot of open-ended stuff in here that could lead to some really cool storytelling. So, I've said many times in the past that even when Star Wars does something that I don't like, I like the fact that it exists, because it could potentially lead to something new that I do like. And I think the Ahsoka program, the series, program, like I'm in, like it's in the 50s or something. Oh God. Anyway, let's go to the sock hop. The Ahsoka series, I think, has a lot of cool open-ended stuff that I think could, lead to some interesting places. So I'm interested to see what, and also it's becoming clear that a lot of these things are starting to tie together. We saw the Leia thing, and positive, we got 3PO. So there you go.
Yep.
But yeah, but I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's starting to tie together. So I think the fact that it is giving us some new things that could be pretty huge down the road, I thought was cool too. So I liked some of the open-ended stuff. While it's weird to me because I don't see where it's going, I don't even have like a guess. I like it because it's there, and I like it because it's interesting, and it's could potentially provide us with some more interesting stuff.
Yeah, you got to bring some new stuff to the table, right? You can't just keep, like you said, resting on your laurels and doing the same old. That's how you get franchise fatigue. So you've got to take some chances sometimes. Even if it means sending whales to hyperspace. At least it's an attempt to.
They're called They That Shall Not Be Named. All right, you're back.
I didn't name them. I called them space whales.
I said they're called They That Shall Not Be Named. Use the terminology. Those things suck ass. We're not getting into that. We've already done that to death.
So hyperspace animals in general.
All right. I'll allow it.
It's an idea. It's something different, So I'll give them credit for that. I think in general, one of the things that is, I don't know if it's a problem or not, but I found the villains to be more compelling than the heroes. Did you feel the same?
Wow, I never.
I mean, between
nice.
God, I was going to say Martok, but that's a Star Trek character name. Marok.
Yeah.
Marok.
Yeah. Wow, I never thought of it.
The ultimate red herring. Boy, we had so many thoughts on like, who is that guy? Who is that guy? And turns out he's just nobody.
Well, and Kale asked that. It's actually interesting you bring that up. He says, who did Sam Witwer voice? He insisted he was in the show, and I highly doubt he was talking about a blink and you'll miss it status of a character he did once.
Could have been Marok. It could have been Enoch. I'm trying to think of anyone else whose face we didn't see who had a voice that we didn't already know. Like Hu Yang, it was the same dude, David, somebody that voiced him in Rebels. And he certainly wasn't playing a Night Sister. So I think we've covered all the possible suspects.
Let's see if we can Google this here. Sam Witwer does
maybe
appear
he's
in the
got
credits.
an IMDb credit now.
He's simply listed as an additional voice, and it's not clear who.
What they like to do, though, sometimes in a lot of these things, they like to get like their buddies in to do random stormtroopers. So he might have just been doing stormtrooper chatter.
All right. Well, they need to get him in there, man.
Right.
Back to your question. Jeff Caffrey says villains made this show.
He froze. He done did freeze.
I froze.
Yeah, We got Jeff and then your stupid face hanging there.
Oh God,
So,
it looked fine on my end. Interesting. But again, my computer does need an update. It's probably what it is. Yeah. So yeah, Jeff said villains made this show. I never thought about it, to answer your question. Like, were the villains more compelling than the heroes? I don't think I'm qualified to answer that, because I'm not invested in the Rebels characters like a lot of people, but I don't dislike them. So I think I would naturally be predisposed to enjoying the villains more because they're more interesting to me. They're new. I Morgan Elsbeth I really wasn't into. I just thought she was kind of like your crazy aunt. And it was, so I was like, okay. Shin Hafu was pointless, as we said. Baylan Skoll was awesome. Thrawn is, no matter what, is awesome. That's just a great character. Enoch is the gold face. Enoch's the gold face stormtrooper, right? Yeah.
Yep.
That was cool. That reminded me of something out of Squid Games, and I like Squid Games a ton. I love Squid Games. I like Squid Games a ton. What the hell is wrong with my speaking this evening? God damn it. Good Lord. Anyway, God damn it.
that's exactly what I was thinking. Oh God.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd say it's pretty much down the middle. I mean, it was cool to see more of Ahsoka. Hera's a great character. Sabine, I was pretty indifferent to. Yeah, for me, running through everything, I think it's about equal for me. So I guess you're saying that so you said the villains were more intriguing for you than the good guys.
Yeah, like I don't know. I'd have to think of other examples to see if this always stacks up. But the broadest strokes of the story to me would be the bad guys are doing something. We've got to stop them. It's like the heroes had no plan of their own other than to simply be an obstacle for the villains. And that's probably a pretty standard story format. But at least like every time the villains were on screen, I was like, oh, what's going to happen now? They're up to something. But with the heroes, it was never in doubt. We knew exactly what was going on. The only time I felt like any sort of like real intrigue was like at the very beginning of the show when Ahsoka is basically doing her best Indiana Jones impression, like tomb raiding, for the map.
Yeah. Right.
I was like, oh, this is cool. What is with all this? And then that went away real fast.
Yeah. Discuss Metal Joe, our good buddy Joe Wren. Good to see you, buddy. He says, if this show had been a movie, it would not have felt like a letdown at the end. It really feels like they made Ahsoka so they can bring back Rebels as a new show. Yeah, I actually I think it'd be worse as a movie because the end is just so. What the hell was the point of that? We went to find Ezra, but now we just switched places. That's
I said this on the recap show on the network last week, where to me the last episode it almost feels like maybe the episode count got cut, or they wrote it for a season 2. And because they didn't have a green light for season 2, by the time this had to hit air, it feels like they tacked on a bunch of these like scenes at the end, just like check in with all the characters and see where they ended up. And it just kind of fell flat, right? Like, you see Shin, she arrives at the Marauders camp. Baylan, okay, cool. He's standing on the hand of the statue of the Mortis gods. Awesomely jumping off point there, but it was just like, okay, we checked in with her, we checked in with him. Let's make sure that we show Ezra and Hera reuniting on the New Republic ship. It's just like a kind of like a checklist, It wasn't like an organic way to wrap up everything with every character. It was more like, well, we might not be coming back, so let's just make sure everybody gets a little bit of closure.
Yeah, I can see that. I just don't understand. Like, there's so much open-ended stuff in this that I don't know how there was any way that they weren't already for sure doing at least a second season. Otherwise, the writing was just very just kind of sloppy, unless they weren't sure and they specifically did that hoping somebody else would pick that up in something else later. I mean, maybe that's the point.
It could be like the movie slate's always changing. So, they announced that there's going to be a Dave Filoni movie that culminates all this, but when and how many seasons of television are coming out in between, we don't know. Like, who knows? They might have had to kind of leave it this way so they can say like, well, we could jump to the movie if we want, or we could hold off and tell a couple more seasons of television first. Let's find out what the next couple of years hold.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think that's a very good point.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen in Marvel the way they've had to rejuggle stuff like through the pandemic and everything, how stuff can get wonky because they have a plan laid out and then the timeline moves and now stuff doesn't sit properly where it belongs and stuff has to be rewritten in like a kind of janky way, I mean, there's already been a shift in this whole time period because that whole Rangers of the New Republic show just got scrapped because of the whole Gina Carano thing. So that was one of the 4 pillars that was supposed to be part of this. That's now gone. So they're having to like integrate those stories like Carson Teva into like the other shows just to keep that through line. And we still don't know. Like this is not confirmed for a season 2, is it?
I haven't seen anything. I mean, I'm not actively looking. So, and there's
is Mando confirmed for a season 4?
Oh yeah. As far as I know, I didn't hear that it wasn't. In fact, I'm almost positive that was. I'm almost 100% positive that was because I looked it up at the end, when it did the little, that weird wipe thing.
That's the thing. That had a very final thing to it, right?
Yeah.
We got Skeleton Crew coming up.
Yes.
I think that was supposed to be out. Was that supposed to be this year and now it's been pushed, or was it always supposed to be next year?
Isn't there something coming out in November, I thought?
I don't think so. I thought Skeleton Crew was the next thing on the slate.
I don't know.
Oh, he's Googling, folks.
Yeah. Yeah, it's 2023. Consists of 8 episodes. I wonder how old this is, though. November or December of 2023.
Yeah, by now. Okay, if it was coming out next month, we'd have a release date.
Yeah, approximate January 2024. There's another thing.
Yeah.
All right. Star Wars Skeleton Crew
Acolyte,
released.
Caleb McLeish in the chat. Yeah, talking about Acolyte. That one has been announced and kind of fell silent. So who knows what's going on with that?
That was like
I think.
Sorry to cut you off. I was going to say.
Go ahead.
You brought that. Acolyte was like the highlight of Celebration this year. Because I watched all the coverage because I was off work for watching the Masters tournament, and man, everything was Acolyte. So that might be a big one. At least that's what it sounded like from all the coverage of it. Yeah, Jeff, exactly. Jeff Caffrey says sometime in the future. Yeah. Why do they keep doing that? Why do they keep saying it's out in this thing? Oh, no, we're bumping it. Oh, we're changing it. We're doing 2 episodes at once. We're doing can't they figure this crap out? That's weird to me.
That's a good point. That was like what was it, like 2 weeks ahead of the premiere that they all of a sudden went, it's on Tuesdays and it's 9 p.m. and you get 2 episodes.
Yeah.
What? How did you not have that figured out? It's like they just looked at the calendar and was like, oh, crap, we've locked in Loki for a certain release date and we don't want them overlapping. How do we fix that?
Yeah. And the other thing I didn't like was the whole 9 p.m. a set time. They should just do what they were doing. Release it at midnight Pacific.
I disagree.
Okay.
I disagree. I think it's awesome because, I hated that. Because if you don't have time to jump on like immediately at midnight when it drops, then you've got to like avoid the internet until you can get on to watch it, because otherwise something's going to be ruined for you. I hate that.
Well, how addicted
I love that everybody gets to see it at the same time at a regular viewing time where we can all enjoy it simultaneously.
I hated it. I want to come home, I want to make dinner, and when I sit down to eat dinner, I want to put the damn show on. Not sit down, eat dinner, and go, okay, I got to kill time for 2 hours or 2.5 hours or something. And if I want to get to bed early, like, well, you're not doing it that night because I got to catch Ahsoka.
Okay, well then I can shift your thinking. Wednesdays used to be the day that Star Wars would drop, right? So now just think of it as you're getting it 3 hours early.
6 hours. But yeah, I don't know. I don't like it. I don't like it. Jeff Caffrey says, "I love the appointment TV idea of the old days." Okay, I think I'm in the minority here with that, but you know, yeah, Jeff's out on the West Coast, so he said 6 p.m. here was perfect. Yeah, see, for me it was 9 o'clock, and I was like, damn it. That's usually when I'm laying in bed just pulling up some like YouTube videos or, you know, episode television of reruns of something and or reading, you know, a book to fall asleep to. Instead, it's like, nope, gotta watch Ahsoka.
Brad once Williams, the East Coast gets screwed, because you're right. If it came out at 6 p.m., that'd be awesome.
Yeah. Brad Williams says that there's been zero press and hype for Skeleton Crew. That's true. A show I'm nervous for, but
yeah, I feel like that one's in trouble.
Or they're just focusing on the other stuff.
Also, as far as the lack of promotion, the strike really has a lot to do with that right now.
Yeah, true.
But yeah, for a brand new show to have no promo, that doesn't say that the studio has a lot of faith in it either.
I don't know that I agree. I just think they're focusing on other stuff. You know, they don't usually overlap things very much, if at all. So, you know, maybe they're, now that Ahsoka's done and it's, you know, it's in the rearview mirror, now we're going to get focused on the other stuff. I mean, it's what they've done before. So, yeah. I don't know. That doesn't worry me. I mean, maybe they're crapping their pants because they lost a lot of subscribers. I don't know. I mean, the price increase doesn't help, but I don't know, man. Like, I'd be interested to know where fans are really standing on this stuff, because for me, even though, like I said at the very beginning of the show, that Ahsoka is by far my least favorite of the live action shows, I still enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
And it, you know, anything they're going to put out in live action now, I'm going to watch. Unless it's like a National Geographic special about they that shall not be named. And so I would like to think that the majority of fans are like that the quality of the live action material has been so high that if they don't throw out a ton of promo material for Acolyte or Skeleton Crew or something like that, like that they're still going to tune into it in droves. You know, the only people I know that just absolutely aren't watching are some of my dickhead friends that are like, "Oh, Disney's all woke. I'm not supporting it's woke now. They did this." I'm like, "Shut up. Will you please shut up?" I absolutely hate hearing that. Like, I can't even begin to tell you. Like, Star Wars is not woke. Just stop it. If you're watching Star Wars to find those things, you're watching Star Wars for the wrong reasons, and get the hell out of my fandom. And yes, I'm gatekeeping, and no, I don't care. I hate that. I absolutely detest it. So those are the only people that I know in my circle of friends that are, you know, that you know, drop their subscriptions or aren't watching Star Wars and stuff like that. So Purrgil Mort. Volta Purrgil Mort.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Jeff Caffrey coming through. All right. No, I like the fact, I said this in my recap at the beginning of the show too, where I like the fact that you get something that's every bit as grounded as like Andor, where it's very boots on the ground. And then you get something like this that's like as far into the fantasy realm as you can get. You know, you've got the world between worlds, and you've got they who shall not be named, and all this craziness, right? And it can all live alongside each other. And if you get into the more grounded stories of Andor, great, we've got that for you over here. If you really just want to know about space wizards and crazy bullshit magic and stuff like that, we got that over here for you too. Whatever gets you into the fandom, I'm fine with, really. Even if I don't like it, I can understand that there's an audience for it. Yeah. I mean, hell, dude, I put on the Young Jedi Adventures in the background the other day and just chewed through the entire first season of that. And it's utterly, you know, it's written for like 5-year-olds. But you know what? If we get some new 5-year-olds into the fandom, I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
I don't care how ridiculous it is.
It's fine. It
works
like,
for the target audience.
I totally agree. It's like that game show that they had for a minute where Ahmed Best was, Keller and Beck, and Steph and I watched all those episodes, and it was fun. It was little
Can you
kids
imagine
kicking ass.
getting into that show, and then you're watching Mandalorian, and all of a sudden that flashback scene hits with Order 66. You're like, holy crap, there's my Jedi.
Yes. See, and that's cool. It's interesting. Even just a dumb little game show.
Mhm.
Although it did kind of suck sometimes watching like the kids that were really terrible at it, just getting smoked. That was that. Did
it suck watching kids do badly, or did it suck knowing that you could absolutely kick their ass at that show?
It sucked because I have such a dark sense of humor. I was like, just thinking of a parent at home going, "You're disgracing the family. You placed last. You couldn't even jump over a log." Like, it's just the horrible things that go through my mind watching that stuff. But yeah, I mean, it was that part of it was. Yeah, but even that was cool, and it was definitely for little kids, and it was interesting, and it was thought provoking, and if nothing else, it brought Ahmed Best back into the canon, which was great. So yeah, I just there's all these great things. I just think that Ahsoka, it looks great and it's fun. I think, dude, I think for me, there's just something about live action Star Wars that will always be interesting. And I think now that there are a lot of animated examples, Rebels and Resistance and obviously the Clone Wars and stuff, I think to see these animated characters come to life, it's kind of like as interesting to me as seeing the Marvel stuff, where it's like I've only ever seen them on the pages of a comic book, but now they're in right in my face on my TV screen or on a movie screen. And I think that's really cool, and I think they've done a great job with all of them.
So speaking of, we haven't even covered all the storylines in the season so far. So speaking of animation making the jump to live action and actors getting their flowers, so to speak, how about Hayden coming back as Anakin and doing all the like Clone Wars flashbacks and stuff? What did you think about that stuff?
Loved it.
Yeah,
loved it.
So you like. You love the Clone Wars flashbacks with like Ryloth and the Siege of Mandalore and everything?
Oh yeah. Well, give me more Anakin Skywalker. Give me more Anakin Skywalker.
I was really surprised about how effortlessly he kind of slotted into that Clone Wars style Anakin.
Yeah,
he had to basically do his best Matt Lanter Anakin Skywalker.
That's what I was
instead
thinking
of
too.
His own Hayden Christensen Anakin Skywalker. And I thought it worked. I thought it worked pretty well.
I do have a public service announcement, by the way. Speaking of, Hayden Christensen, real quick. So let's just go solo here. I saw a lot of complaining online about the de-aging of Hayden Christensen. Stop complaining about the de-aging. It looks fine. Cut it out, Star Wars fans. It looks fine. It's better than not having it at all or leaving him as an old man. So just be quiet. Thank you for listening to my TED Talk or whatever the hell the statement is. I just had to get that out there because I saw so much that I'm like, dude, shut up. It's Anakin Skywalker and all these different eras, and that's cool. Can't you just get into that? Mm-hmm. Can they do a better job? Yeah, but it's a TV show. It's not a movie. So they're not going to have the budget and the time to do what they do for this, the cinematic releases. But yeah, I'm completely with you. I thought that was one of the best things of the whole show. I mean, Kale says it, best episode ever. Like, yeah, like it was. I mean, I hated the World Between Worlds thing, obviously, but
I was going to say, are you going to walk that back now because you had to get through the World Between Worlds to get to the thing you liked so much?
Yeah, and I really didn't understand the point of what the hell was going on. Like, he's going to kick her ass, but then there's a flashback, but then he's going to go back to kicking her ass. Like, that was weird to me. It was kind of like the dark side cave on Dagobah in Empire. Like, what the hell is this?
I was just going to say that, yeah.
Yeah, but him going into the different versions of the character, I thought was really, really cool. So I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. And again, I'm a little biased. I am a huge Anakin Skywalker fan. I keep becoming a bigger fan of that character as the years go by. And I think it's probably because I loved Hayden Christensen in the prequels to begin with. I thought it was a great casting choice, and I think now that he's like becoming this like icon in the franchise, I kind of feel like I was on board, like I'm like an OG or something. So maybe that's got part, it's part, it's part of it. But
You liked Anakin before it was cool.
yeah, exactly. Like I'm like, I told you guys this was awesome. See, isn't he great? Like,
Well, he's got the benefit of having 20 more years of acting experience under his belt. So I think he's just doing a better job in the character because he's got 20 years of experience being an actor.
well, but I mean, it's the dialogue too and the presentation. I mean, I
Also
don't,
that, yeah.
yeah, I mean,
Better material, better actor, better acting.
yeah, I mean, I really don't think his acting was a problem in the prequels because it's that's a whole nother episode.
I don't think anyone could have saved some of those lines. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That-
I mean, oh, that love
What's that
scene.
Harrison Ford quote about, like, you can write it on the page, but no one can say this?
Yeah, you can
And
type
yet
this
in the
stuff, but you
prequels
can't
they
say
had
it.
to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's been done to death. But I mean that love scene in Attack of the Clones is like, you're in my very soul. Like, and it's, I mean, so now that you've given him something that you can actually say and get into normally, without trying to force yourself to make, to polish the turd, you can see the guy knows what he's doing. I mean, he always did. So.
Mhm.
Jeff Caffrey says, they hit the mark with the Clone Wars Anakin for sure. Yeah, I mean, the whole thing was just a really, really cool. It was,
Yeah, and he was given some schlock to say in this too, but he somehow pulled it off. I didn't mind it. Even when it was schlocky, I'm like, okay, well, that's not anywhere near as bad as the things he had to say in the prequels. So I'm used to goofy shit coming out of Anakin Skywalker's mouth. So
right.
maybe I was just like, primed for it from having watched 2 and 3 so many times. But yeah.
Do you think this
Yeah,
show
it
was
was
a
weird.
little? Do you think this show felt a little philosophical? I mean, there was action in it, but it was
Oh, yeah.
kind of, it was very kind of like down in the weeds. With the philosophy of the Jedi and all this other stuff. Like, it was, I don't want to say intellectual because it wasn't like some huge thought provoking thing, but it did seem a little heavier on some more. I don't know how to phrase
You
it,
can
but
tell Dave is a lore junkie.
Yes,
Dave
yes.
loves writing about the Force. He has.
Yes.
I mean, how many
Thank
interviews have you seen with the guy? He has so much to say about the Force and the nature of the fabric of Star Wars. So, as soon as we got season 3 of the Clone Wars and that Mortis arc, you knew that this guy was going to go in deep.
Yeah.
And now that he's got like the reins to do it all, like whatever he wants to do, oh yeah, it got philosophical. But see, here's why I don't mind that though. Like, I think one of the criticisms of Book of Boba Fett is it was more like, how do we get to the next action sequence? It was just a bunch of action sequences, and then we had to write some story to get us there. Where instead, this was like the other way around, where it's like, okay, we've got all these thoughts, all these story points we want to hit. Now, how do we make the action express that?
Yeah.
And
It
that's
kinda-
always, I think that was even back in the episode 3 special features. They were talking about that, like how the lightsaber fights have to tell a story.
Yeah.
They have to start at one place and end at another and build and explain character through action.
Yeah.
And I feel like this show did a really good job of that.
Yeah. Skip Ruckle, good to see you, man. He says, absolutely. Ahsoka was working out her legacy. Yeah, this show kind of reminded me of a movie, and I don't know how many people have seen this. I mean, it's Steven Spielberg, but it's an interesting watch because it's a pretty heavy watch. I think you got to really be into talking. But Steven Spielberg's Lincoln, I remember watching that movie, and it was just nothing but dialogue and exposition, and like nothing really happened. There were a few, scenes, obviously they had some stuff going on, but it was really just a lot of dialogue and explanation. And this show kind of felt like a Star Wars equivalent of that. I don't know if that's exactly right, but that's how it felt to me.
Mhm.
Which again, I think is, goes back to your point of it being a different type of a show, and there's different types of shows, and if you like, certain aspects of the Force, there's different things for everybody. There's something for everybody, and I think, that's one of the things that set this one apart. So, it was pretty cool. I thought it was an interesting presentation. And because it was a little different, I think that's the parts of it that I liked. Because I really think if this had just been handled like the rest of it, where it's pretty much just, like you said, Book of Boba Fett, where it's a bunch of like action set pieces and a little bit of story in between, I don't think I would have liked it because of, the complaints that I had about the show. There wouldn't have really been anything to take my attention away from the stuff that was pissing me off. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I think like even as much as I don't like Sabine having the Force, that alone is something at least worth exploring as an idea. This concept that how does Obi-Wan put it in A New Hope? He says, the Force is an energy field created by all living things. It surrounds us, it binds us, it penetrates, surrounds us, it penetrates us, it binds the universe together.
yeah.
So it is in everything. So I like the way, Sabine kind of played proxy for the audience and kind of like asked Ahsoka, like, so, how does this whole Force thing work? And she's like, because, everything's got the Force. So why can't everybody just use the Force? She's like, well, it's a little bit more than that. And I like that conversation. That's like a very natural conversation that a new Force user would have, especially one who's struggling to master it, would have with someone who's, been there, done that.
Yeah.
So even the very nature of the Force is something that is open to interpretation in Dave Filoni's mind, which is cool.
I think he takes it too far.
In what aspect?
He always wants to expand it, and sometimes enough is enough, because it's you can go too far, and I think Sabine is a perfect example of it. Like, just stop. Sabine doesn't need the damn Force. This implication, when Ahsoka said, like, when Sabine said, so everybody can use the Force, well, not exactly. No, the answer should have been no. No, you can't. No, you can't. It's like, it's like playing guitar. Can everybody try to learn it? Yeah, but most people are probably going to end up sucking. So they don't. You can't do it. You can't play guitar. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not
true. Like you can grind and grind and grind, but there is at some point a certain amount of innate talent that's required.
Yeah.
Like, dude, you are an awesome cook, and I don't care how much time I put into it. I am never going to put on a meal like you do. You just have a knack for it that I don't. I can follow a recipe to the letter and make adequate food, but I'm not going to make anything that makes people go home and go, man, that's a good meal.
I hate to. I get your point.
How it is.
Yeah. I can cook, but that's why I'm the fat one. You can work out.
If everyone can use the Force, do you think we're coming into a Force user problem? Like, the original trilogy taught us that basically it was Obi-Wan and Yoda, and then Luke was learning, and that was it. That was it for Force users. That was it for Jedi. But turns out that at that same time in history now, Ezra was alive, Ahsoka was alive, Cal Kestis was alive, Baylan Skoll was alive, Shin Hati, I think maybe not. I think she might be too young.
Shin Hafu. Correct your pronunciation of Shin Hafu.
Caleb Dune, also known as Kanan Jarrus.
Yep.
For Last of the Jedi, you will be not by a long shot. There are a lot of Force users out there, and apparently more all the time. So I feel like it kind of diminishes Luke's importance in the saga to find out that there are Leia. Sorry, I forgot Leia.
Yeah.
They just keep inserting more people that, you didn't know it, but they actually had the Force and they were training as Jedi. Like, what?
Yeah, I never thought about that. That's a very good point. Yes, I do think that's a problem. There has to be some kind of mystique left. There has to be some kind of limit on. I mean, I understand that, like, they've already said, like, some people, slip through the cracks in Order 66. That's where this, that's how this whole thing comes about. But yeah, I mean, the list you just read off is it's not like there's like two people out there and Yoda's like, oh shit, I forgot, forgot a couple people I did, like it's it's
Grogu.
yeah. I mean, that's quite a list. Yeah, man. See, I wouldn't have thought about it unless you brought it up. So it's like, to me, I'd be like, oh no, it's not a problem. But then you mention it that way, and I'm like, oh no, that's a problem. Like, yeah, that was the
whole thing. It was like big about Luke starting the new Jedi Academy too, right? Was like he was restarting the Order because he was the only one who could do it. Turns out there's about 5 or 6 people that could do it, really.
Well, and then are they going to get it? Like, I mean, are they going to get into the whole point of, well, these other people could do it, but they were sucky, so they don't really count,
right?
Like, you're just a hack. It's like, like Luke Skywalker's in the NFL, but all these other jobbers are in like the XFL. Like
yeah.
After the regular season, they'll be bagging groceries, on Coruscant. Yeah, that's a good point. Damn it! Why'd you have to put that thought in my head? Oh, don't do that, man. I love that. I love the Force and the Jedi. Now it feels watered down a little bit.
Have they said anything about Jude Law's character in Skeleton Crew? Is he supposed to also be a Force user?
I'm going to be honest. I haven't read a lot about that show, so I don't
think they said a lot about that show. I mean, even Celebration was light on details.
Yeah. I mean, I know it's about like 4 kids, and he's got to track them down or something, and I mean, we'll figure it out. As we said, there'll be plenty of stuff coming out about Skeleton Crew now that Ahsoka's over. So,
right? It's like they learned their lesson from Last Jedi and Solo. You don't want too much overlap, or else people will just tune out.
Yep. Oh. Well, on that note, why don't we close up shop here? I think we've talked a lot of Ahsoka here. That was good. Overall grade. I was asked by Chris Mocked. I actually did some stuff for Mocktails from the Cantina this past Saturday. I did a podcast episode with Chris and one of his buddies, and he was doing he said he stole it from us, like doing like a school grade on the thing.
Oh.
So
yes, we invented that. That's ours.
I was like, well, we stole that from somebody else, buddy. Don't worry. Like we plagiarized too. And I gave it like a C or a C plus. It wasn't bad, wasn't great. Lots to like, lots that kind of irked me, but it definitely didn't turn me off of watching future episodes of it, and it certainly didn't turn me off of live action Star Wars. So it was pretty cool. What about you? Letter grade?
I will give it a B plus. I liked it better than you did. I'm still on board with seeing how some of the stuff that didn't jive with me plays out.
Okay.
So yeah, I'll give a pass to a lot of the things that I didn't enjoy because there's so much stuff we didn't even get around to. We didn't even talk about zombie stormtroopers, for example.
That's because we talked about it on the last episode. We talked about it. We mentioned it because it's stupid and shitty. Besides,
one of the things that we all agreed upon last week in the VCN Ahsoka recap was the show just felt a little overstuffed. Like there were so many storylines that could have had their own episodes worth of content, and they just had to like drop it real quick to get onto the next thing. Yeah. So I'm actually dropping it down to a B plus or a B from an A because of so many dangling plot threads. I feel like they could have structured the season differently to pay off certain story threads better. Okay. Otherwise, I think it was really entertaining, and it definitely puts plenty of meat on the Star Wars bone to be picked at later.
Yes. So Skip Ruckle apparently just got a spoiler. We did warn everybody at the beginning there will be spoilers, but
oops.
Sounds like you haven't seen the last episode, Skip. Yeah, there's zombie troopers. It was apparently Dave Filoni thinks he's got to throw Walking Dead in here somehow, which was right. Like I said, you wanted positives, AJ, and since I already bitched about zombie troopers before, that's why we didn't talk about it, because it's a putrid, stupid ass idea. So I don't, we didn't discuss it. So before we get out of here, why don't we bring up the upcoming show schedule for the Virtual Cantina Network, and we'll go through this here a little bit. Oh boy. Or
just real quick. So yeah, very subtle indication here, but the stormtroopers did get zombified.
well, and it's not so subtle when one of them gets clipped in the helmet, and then you can see the actual zombie like skin and crap underneath on their face. So
Yes.
they actually showed that. That's how I figured it out. I was like, oh God, really? So anywho.
Yeah.
Anywho.
All right, so let's talk upcoming shows on the Virtual Cantina Network, shall we?
Yes. All right. So this is obviously for this week. The Rebels Revisited has already happened. Our show has already happened. Later on this week, namely tomorrow, we have the VCN Watch Along Gallery Season 3 Mando. That'll be tomorrow, October 12th at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6:30 p.m. Pacific Time. And then we have on Sunday, October 15th, the Jedi Archives Dark Droids Issues 1 and 2. That'll be at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 8 a.m. Pacific Time. So again, that's Sunday, October 15th. So tune into those excellent shows. I'm really glad that one show isn't on there that is like technically a Thursday, even though it says Friday, because I always mess that up, and you get it right. So I didn't have to stumble over that.
Right.
So
And
Yeah.
for those who do want to tune into Rebels Revisited, that is every Monday. So stay tuned to the other great shows on the Virtual Cantina Network for a listing of what they will be watching on their next episode, and they'll be sure to tell you. But that is always Mondays at 9 p.m. I think Eastern.
I think so. Yes. Yep.
Yeah, 9 p.m.
And-
Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific.
Yep. And we are going to be right back here in 2 weeks on Wednesday, October 25th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we are doing our annual Halloween episode. And this year, it is not Star Wars related, but we do that from time to time. We have a non-Star Wars show. We have decided that we want to review the shittiest horror movie remake ever made, which in my opinion is the remake of A Nightmare on Elm Street. It is pure hot garbage. So if you want to watch a really terrible movie, go ahead and watch that, and then you can throw your 2 cents in the chat, because that's what we are going to be doing, is skewering that absolute abortion of a movie, because I hate it. And it deserves
And
to
I've
be
never
ridiculed.
seen it, so this should be really entertaining.
It is putrid. I will never forget seeing that in the theater. And I was in my original band APG at the time, and I went with my drummer Tony, who absolutely loves Nightmare on Elm Street. I think it's his favorite franchise. And we got out of the theater, and I said, "What in the name of God was that?" "Well, that was awesome." And I turned to him and I said, "Shut up. There's no way."
And the band was over.
Yeah, yeah. I was like, and he's trying to give me reasons why it's good. I'm like, "You're full of crap. There's no way you enjoyed that. There is no way you enjoyed that. No way in hell. No way in hell." So, yeah, that movie is definitely terrible, and we're going to be talking about it. But I'm a huge Halloween fan. I watch scary movies all the time. I actually watched a really weird one the other night. I'm one of those goobers that'll look up like goriest or most twisted Halloween movies. I look up those lists and try to watch them if it sounds interesting. So there was one called Maniac, which was 1980, and they actually redid it in the last like decade or so, and they had Elijah Wood as the main character, which is a very weird character choice once you've seen the original. But it's pretty gory, especially for 1980, and it's very straightforward. There's not much to it, but it's pretty twisted. And so I was like, all right, this is interesting. It was for free on one of the streaming services. And last recommendation before we get out of here, I do have a Halloween movie recommendation. It's a little old. I think it's, let me think, 93, 94, something years old. Anyway, it came out in 1931. My wife and I, Steph and I, sat down and we watched the original Dracula, the Bela Lugosi Dracula. And I got to tell you,
wow, that is a classic.
it was very entertaining. The ending was like, Oh, give me a break. Like the ending was just totally a shit sandwich, but it was really entertaining and it was creepy. I mean, it's and because and I had to laugh every time there was a bat that came in, because it was obviously like a rubber bat on a string just being bounced.
Mhm.
So you couldn't help being like, but I mean, it had a very creepy vibe. And when you start thinking about, okay, what if I'm in 1931 and I go to the theater to see this, that would have chilled my piss. So if you guys haven't seen it, it's interesting. It's only like an hour and 15 minutes long. It's a short watch. But it's interesting. It's campy and it's creepy and it's cool if you like older movies. And AJ and I grew up on the Marx Brothers, so I like those sorts of things. And it was good. So
if you like direct to video quality horror movies, I just recently watched Pet Sematary Bloodlines on Paramount Plus. That was, like I said, it was a direct to video kind of quality movie.
Oh, speaking
so basically, don't bother.
Yeah, don't try it.
Yeah.
See,
it wasn't bad enough to be entertaining, and it wasn't good enough to be entertaining. It was that horrible middle ground.
To bring everything full circle, remember I said they needed somebody in the room to smack Dave Filoni in the back of the head when he came up with one of his dumb goddamn ideas? They needed somebody to smack the writer of that Bloodlines thing to be like, no, leave Pet Sematary alone. Didn't you learn your lesson from Pet Sematary 2? Like, just go away. Or the remake of Pet Sematary that came out in the last few years, which was also terrible. Not as bad as the remake of Nightmare on Elm Street, though. So,
all right.
There you go. So, guys, thank you once again for tuning in to another episode of the Nerf Herder Council. As we said, we will be right back here on Wednesday, October 25th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are live on on our Facebook page, our YouTube channel, and also the Facebook page and YouTube channels of the Virtual Cantina Network. As always, we are brought to you by Audible. Go to audibletrial.com/NHC for your 30-day trial and a free audiobook download. If you'd like to get customizable Nerf Herder Council swag, just go to shop.nerfherdercouncil.com. If you would like to get Virtual Cantina Network swag, you can go to their site, which is tpublic.com/user/virtual-cantina. And guys, we are here every other Wednesday at 8 p.m. And if you are on YouTube, please click that like button, click that subscribe button, and smash that notification bell so that you're notified every time we go live. Skip Ruckle, thank you very much. He says, Nerf Herders rock. Thanks, buddy. It's good to see you. Appreciate the kind words. And to all you guys in the chat who make the show go, Joseph Wren, Kale McLeish, Jeff Caffrey, all you guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us. We really appreciate it. It's always great to see you. And we'll be back here in 2 weeks. So until then, I am your host, JT at Dog Pound Jedi. He is AJ.
At Drake Adams 579.
And we'll catch you next time.